So, there's the thing I want to talk about, and I don't know exactly where to start because there's a lot of things I want to bring up in this conversation, but it has to do with, right leaning people and their disgust response. Because I cannot provide a source for this. I want you to, um, understand that, one of the big things I'm going to bring up, I literally don't know what the source is for this, and I apologize because that fucking sucks. That really discredits a lot of what I'm gonna say, but I do remember seeing it was on the internet. It was like some article or something where um a study was done, and it kind of came up with these results that suggest that people who are more right leaning have a more sensitive disgust response. They they have a lower tolerance for disgusting things, you know? They're more easily repulsed by stuff. And that informs a lot of how I see the right. And I think there's examples of it. Like one of the things that comes to my mind is American Psycho. You know, like that fella, he certainly embodies a lot of the right wing ideals and stuff, in my opinion. And he's very easily disgusted, and he's very obsessed with hygiene and stuff. Um, and the thing is that another thing is Dreg, aka Greg Guevara, I think his name is Greg Guevara, Guevara. He's a fellow on the internet who does a lot of political um, videos, and they're kind of crazy and off the a little bit. They're a little wacky, you could say, but I enjoy his content, and I've learned a lot from him. I mean, and he did this survey thing with his Twitter followers or something like that, where he asked them to talk about what their they would do the political compass thing, the political compass quiz. And I know that the political compass is kind of stupid in its own way, because like it's hard to actually make a chart that perfectly summarizes someone's political alignments. It's not that simple, but still, for the sake of the argument, I'm going to be bringing that up. So he had the Twitter followers do their thing with the political compass, play the little quiz thing, and then also do I think that kink quiz thing on the internet, because I think there's this. I'm pretty sure I've done it before, like many of us have, because it's a pretty famous quiz where you can find out what kind of kinks you have. So, and it's one that actually correlates with your answers. It's not like a BuzzFeed quiz where it's oh, pick your favorite Disney character and we'll tell you what kinks you have, or something silly like that. It's not like that. Don't think of it like that. It's it correlates with the things that you actually put in, so the findings were that people who were closer to who were more right leaning would have. I mean, there was a high correlation with scat. High correlation with scat. I remember that one. That has a high correlation with being specifically an authoritarian right winger, aka closer to a fascist or a Nazi or whatever, and they also had a higher correlation with things like pedophilia and necrophilia and stuff like that. You can look this up and see it for yourself. And then the left had higher correlations with things females dominating and femboys and stuff like that. Stuff that kind of subverts typical I guess what would you call it, dynamics, power dynamics in the world and stuff like that, whereas the right, they were still doing stuff that was definitely taboo, but it was I don't know, it was different. And I think the scat really speaks to my idea of the right, they have this higher disgust response, but I think that also can make them like, it can kind of short circuit their brain and make it more like they're aroused by it as well, and that might like have to do with why there's such a correlation with like scat porn and being like a Nazi, you know? Um and yeah, I this really does inform a lot of how I see the right, you know? I think that like having a decent disgust response is a good thing, but like obviously when it's too sensitive, that can make I mean that can make your first of all it can make your quality of life worse because you know, if you're constantly repulsed, you're not really enjoying yourself, but also it can make you a terrible person because if you're so easily repulsed by others, you know, you might be a hateful person and that can be a problem, you know, for society. And another thing was like I don't want to say like how I found this person or anything like that. I'm not going to give away their username or anything like that. But there was this person on the internet. Um, this is just an anecdotal story, but I know them to be a trans person, and they said that they don't find like human waste disgusting, and I think that that also comes into my like idea because like you know if you're transgender, you're more likely to be left leaning for obvious reasons. And they don't even find like pee and poo disgusting. And I don't know, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying like on a like kind of like objective level, it does correlate with my idea that like um more left-leaning people don't really care and more right-leaning people care a lot, you know? Um they're very uncomfortable with like gross things, but also weirdly aroused by it, you know? So, yeah, I do apologize that like my whole hypothesis or whatever, my whole like point, my thesis, I guess, not hypothesis, but thesis of this video, it's not really like super scientific or anything like that. I'm not providing any like reliable scientific sources. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. But this does inform like my personal like perspective of the right as a whole. So yeah, there you go.